I, 30F, have been married to my husband Joseph, 32M, for 20 years. We met in college when I was friends with his brother. At first, we were just friends, but over time we fell in love. Joseph's introverted nature and kindness were what drew me to him. After graduation, I wanted to start my career right away, but Joseph had different plans. He told me he wanted to travel the world for a year before settling down. Joseph had always talked about seeing different places, so I wasn't totally surprised. I had already landed a great job and didn't want to give it up, so we agreed that Joseph would travel alone. While I moved into a small apartment and started my new job, Joseph prepared for his trip. He came from a middle-class family and had saved up money from part-time jobs to fund his travels. Even though he had student loans like me, he prioritized his dream to see the world. Saying goodbye to Joseph at the airport was hard. He promised to keep in touch regularly. At first, things seemed fine. Joseph texted me daily about the places he was visiting and the food he was trying. From his pictures, he looked happy and excited. I was glad my boyfriend was living his dream. I told him about my days at the office and the work I was doing. Joseph listened but often said I was missing out on life by being stuck in an office while he was experiencing amazing things. As time went on, Joseph started having problems during his travels. His wallet was stolen at a hostel, he had trouble sleeping because of noisy roommates, and he struggled with the heat in some countries. He frequently asked me to send him money for food or bus tickets. Joseph tried finding work, but without a proper visa, it was difficult. He made friends with other travelers and they went out partying together. Joseph sent me pictures of their adventures. But after a while, he started complaining that some people in the group were difficult and they would argue sometimes. I told Joseph he could always come home if he wanted to take a break, but he never took me up on the offer. One night, Joseph called me crying. He said he missed home badly and wanted to come back. He had no money for a flight, so I booked one for him without hesitating. I was excited to see my boyfriend again after so long. When I picked up Joseph from the airport, I was shocked to see a big bruise on his face, like someone had hit him. He was wearing sunglasses to cover his eyes. Joseph hugged me tightly, but I was really worried. When I gently asked what happened, he brushed off my question and started kissing me. He also looked like he had lost a lot of weight. On the drive home, I asked again about his face. Joseph kept avoiding my questions, which made me even more concerned. But I decided to give him some space, hoping he'd open up on his own. At my place, Joseph was surprised how nice it looked. He said he missed sleeping in a real bed and taking hot showers. I let him get cleaned up while I did his laundry. For dinner, I made his favorite food and got his favorite drink from the store. As we started eating, I excitedly told Joseph about all the plans I had for us that weekend. Suddenly I noticed he had stopped eating. When I asked if everything was okay, I saw tears in his eyes. I went over to him, asking what was wrong. Joseph started crying hard and hugged me tight. Eventually, Joseph told me he had really messed up. I stayed quiet as he explained that something happened that he never meant to happen. When I asked if it was related to the bruise on his face, Joseph nodded, looking very guilty. He took a deep breath and told me he had gotten close to a girl in his travel group. My heart sank as Joseph said this girl was just like him, free-spirited and fun. He developed a crush on her without meaning to, and felt really bad about it. The girl also had a boyfriend, so Joseph knew he shouldn't do anything. But one night when Joseph called me crying, he and the rest of the group had gotten really drunk. Somehow Joseph and this girl ended up alone in an alley and she kissed him. Joseph admitted he liked it and didn't stop her. But then the girl's boyfriend found them and started yelling. The situation got worse and the boyfriend punched Joseph in the face. Embarrassed and upset, Joseph decided to end his trip early and come home to me. I sat there feeling numb as Joseph said he felt like he was losing his mind back then and didn't know what he was doing. He said now that he was back with me, he felt terribly guilty for cheating and knew he had to tell me the truth. After Joseph's confession, I felt shocked, hurt and betrayed. It was hard to breathe and I felt sick to my stomach. When Joseph called me crying, I didn't hesitate to book his flight home. But now he was admitting to cheating on me with some random girl. It felt unreal. I ran to the bathroom, overwhelmed with emotions. Joseph followed me, apologizing over and over. He kept saying how sorry he was and that he wished he could take it all back. I couldn't stand being in the same room as him, so I grabbed my coat and left. I needed space to think. No matter how much I thought about it, I didn't know what to do. My boyfriend had cheated on me and said he enjoyed kissing another girl. But we also had a long history together and this was the first time he ever betrayed me like this. When he told me his travel plans, I never doubted him once because I knew what kind of person he was. What he did was totally out of character for him. Later that night when I came home, Joseph was asleep on the couch. It looked like he had been crying. I didn't wake him up. I spent the whole night tossing and turning, trying to figure out what to do next. The next morning, I sat Joseph down and told him we had two options: we could either break up right away, or we could try to work through this together. But if we stayed together, he would need to put in serious effort to fix what he broke. I told Joseph how disappointed I was, but that I was willing to try if he was truly committed. Joseph hugged me tight, crying, and said he was so grateful for another chance. He promised he would never do anything like that again. But I wasn't done. I also told Joseph he needed to find a job and start paying me back for all the money I sent him during his trip. His eyes got big when I explained that I paid for everything out of kindness, but he betrayed my trust by cheating. If we were going to start over, it was only fair that he pay back every cent I gave him for his travel expenses. Joseph agreed, though he didn't seem totally on board with the idea. Over the next few months, Joseph and I lived together while he looked for a job. After searching for a while, he took a job as an office assistant that didn't pay much. When he hoped for something better, I reminded him that he didn't have much work experience, so starting small made sense. I told him his salary would go up with time and experience. Every time Joseph got paid, he made sure to give me some money to pay me back. He also worked on paying off his student loans. We split the rent based on our salaries, so Joseph paid his share while I covered most of the bills. I was okay with that arrangement as long as I saw him taking responsibility. Slowly but surely, we worked on rebuilding our relationship. I started to trust Joseph again and fell back in love with his smile and laugh. We met each other's families and grew closer. Eventually we talked about getting married. While Joseph wanted a big traditional wedding, I didn't want to spend thousands on one day. Instead, I suggested we use that money for an amazing honeymoon to several countries. Joseph loved that idea since we had never traveled internationally together. After a small wedding with close friends and family, we went on our honeymoon adventure. Traveling with my husband was so much fun. We had great days relaxing on beaches and trying new foods. It was a much-needed vacation for me since I rarely took time off work. We came home feeling refreshed and excited to get back to our normal lives. After our trip, I realized I wanted to finally pursue my dream of starting my own business. I had always wanted to do it but was scared of failing. But traveling made me see how important having freedom and flexibility is. So I decided to go for it. I talked to Joseph about quitting my job to focus on my business full-time. He was worried about losing my steady income, but I promised that once the company was established, we'd have more money and freedom to travel. I even said that if things went well, Joseph might not need to keep working. He agreed, so I quit my job to start this new chapter in our lives. Over the years, I worked really hard to build my business. It wasn't always easy, but I managed to make it successful. With the business doing well, I was able to keep my promise to Joseph. We bought a beautiful beach house that he loves. As planned, Joseph was able to quit his job since my income from the business was more than enough for us. During this time, we had a baby girl named Eva. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. When Eva was born, I took a break from work to stay home with her. Luckily, my business kept running smoothly with help from my employees, so I could spend guilt-free time with our newborn daughter. Eva and I have always been very close. She's my little buddy, and Joseph even jokes that we're like two peas in a pod. We spend so many hours playing, laughing, and learning together. Watching Eva grow into a kind, curious young girl has been the greatest joy of my life. Over the years, Eva always said she wanted to work with me someday. So after she turned 16, she started interning at my company every summer. I taught her everything about the business from the ground up. The plan was for her to eventually take over, so I could finally retire. Everything in our lives seemed to be going great. But last year, I accidentally found out that Joseph had been taking anti-anxiety medication. I found his pills hidden in the bathroom cabinet. When I asked him about it, he got defensive and told me to mind my own business. I was worried, so I gently told Joseph he could talk to me about anything. After a lot of back and forth, Joseph finally admitted he had been feeling bored and depressed in our marriage lately. I was surprised because we still went on regular date nights and took 3 vacations a year to places he picked. We lived in a big house with a housekeeper and personal trainer that Joseph could use anytime. While I spent my days working on the business, Joseph played golf or hung out with friends at the country club. I had given him everything he could want and more. What else could anyone ask for? I wanted Joseph to be happy, so I asked if something specific was bothering him. He said there wasn't anything in particular, but mentioned he had been secretly going to therapy to work through his issues. I hugged him and said there was no shame in getting help, and that he could always talk to me. Then Joseph added that he and his therapist thought there was a lack of excitement in our marriage. Confused, I asked what he meant. Joseph said that maybe we should try to add some mystery to our relationship by considering an open marriage. I was shocked that he would suggest something so ridiculous. I asked how having an open marriage would solve our problems. Joseph explained that he felt stuck and wanted to add some excitement to his life. I shook my head as I realized this had always been an issue with Joseph. He got bored easily and had impractical ideas. I was surprised his therapist would even consider suggesting an open marriage without fully understanding our relationship. There was no way I could agree to an open marriage. I made that very clear to Joseph. I told him that if he truly wanted an open marriage, then we would need to get divorced. Because I couldn't stay married to someone who wanted to date other people. Joseph looked offended and upset. He backtracked right away, insisting it was just a suggestion and that I didn't need to mention divorce. I told Joseph that I had given him everything I promised and more. If he kept asking for more, there was nothing else I could offer. I encouraged him to find meaning in his life and appreciate the good things we had. Joseph nodded like he understood. That was the last time the topic came up. We kept having our weekly date nights and Joseph never mentioned an open marriage again. He continued taking his medication as his therapist advised. I always tried to listen and support him through his feelings. I hoped that with time he would find contentment and happiness. Unfortunately, this year brought more challenges for us. After COVID, we had already lost a lot of customers and our business had been slowing down over the past couple years. Then we faced another big setback when we had to close our second largest location, which was a huge loss for us. I've always been open with my family about the business. So when I told Joseph and Eva about having to close that location, they were understandably upset. While Eva asked about our plan moving forward, Joseph got really anxious about future money problems. I tried to assure him that setbacks were normal in business, and we had plenty of savings to cover our losses. But Joseph argued that we needed to cut our losses and sell the business. This was something he had brought up before when things got tough. I understood why he was worried, but any business owner knows you have to deal with challenges to get to better days. I believed we could recover if we gave it time. Since the business is our main source of income, I didn't want to give up so easily. I tried talking to Joseph about it, but he got mad and said I never consider his feelings. I tried to reassure him that I could handle everything, but he scoffed at me. Joseph said he was sick of hearing me say that. He even said maybe I should have just kept my old office job, since clearly I wasn't cut out to be a business owner. His words really hurt me. I couldn't believe he would say that, especially considering everything I've done for our family with money from my business. Our argument turned into a huge fight. Joseph yelled that he was done being married to a loser like me. He called me hurtful names like failure and incompetent before packing some of his things and saying he was leaving me. I was completely shocked by how Joseph was acting. I didn't understand why a simple talk about the business had turned into this. Eva tried to calm her dad down, but he put her in a tough spot by asking if she wanted to go with him or stay with me, since he didn't want anything to do with me anymore. Eva started crying, clearly torn. While I tried to reason with Joseph and figure out why he was behaving this way, in the end Eva refused to leave with him. We watched as Joseph drove away. Looking back, those days were so confusing for us. We couldn't understand why or how Joseph had decided to leave us. He had been my best friend my whole life and I didn't know where I went wrong. Eva told me that maybe this was just temporary and he might come back eventually. But over the next few days, Joseph wouldn't answer our calls and we had no contact with him at all. I couldn't stay in bed feeling depressed, so I went back to work to focus on saving my business. I foolishly thought that if I could fix the business, it might also fix my marriage. Yesterday Joseph reached out after a month of no contact. He asked if Eva and I could meet him for dinner because he had something to tell us both. I had a feeling our marriage was over, which only made it more painful to see him. But I agreed to meet that evening. Long story short, over dinner Joseph explained how unhappy he had been in our marriage. He said the past month away from us convinced him to get a divorce. Eva seemed shocked, but I had a feeling this was coming, so I stayed quiet, trying to process everything. Joseph went on to say he was moving out and taking his things. I asked if he found a new place to live. Joseph smiled and said he didn't need one because he was moving in with his girlfriend. I was stunned and confused, feeling hurt and disbelief at his words. Joseph explained that over the last month, he unexpectedly met and fell in love with a younger woman. He said they instantly clicked and were really attracted to each other. Joseph didn't want to wait to start his life with her and be happy, so they decided to live together. He mentioned that since my business was struggling, he didn't even want any alimony from me. Joseph just wanted a quick, peaceful divorce so he could move on. He said he thought about it a lot and didn't want me to try changing his mind. Despite how disappointed and hurt I felt, I agreed to the divorce. Eva, unlike me, looked furious. She started yelling at Joseph for abandoning our family. Joseph defended himself, saying he did his best but couldn't force himself to stay. He offered Eva the option to live with him and his girlfriend, but she angrily refused. Eva said she wasn't going to abandon the family like he did. With tears in my eyes, I looked at my daughter as she squeezed my hand and told Joseph she would choose me over him any day. We didn't stay to talk more after that and quickly left. Since that dinner, I've noticed Eva has been unusually quiet. I even caught her crying in the bathroom once. It breaks my heart to see her going through this. I haven't even had time to process my own feelings yet. I want to scream and cry over how Joseph has betrayed us. I can't believe he's asking for a peaceful divorce as if I'm the one leaving him. Ida for wanting to fight with my husband for what he's putting our daughter through? Update 1. I'm glad I posted on Reddit because all of your comments and advice helped me calm down and think more clearly. You're right that I shouldn't engage with Joseph if he doesn't want alimony and wants to leave without a fight. I should let him go. It's like the trash taking itself out. I've talked to Eva and we've been spending a lot of quality time together. She's still upset, but we're supporting each other through this. We've been focusing on our hobbies and interests to keep our minds off the situation. Eva has been a tremendous help at the office too, showing real talent for the business. However, there's been an unexpected development. Yesterday, I received a call from Joseph's girlfriend, Natalie, 25F. She sounded distressed and asked if we could meet in person. Curious and a bit wary, I agreed to meet her at a local cafe. When I arrived, Natalie looked nervous and fidgety. After some small talk, she dropped a bombshell: she's pregnant with Joseph's child. Apparently, they had been seeing each other for months before Joseph left me, not just the past month as he claimed. Natalie said she felt guilty about the affair and wanted to come clean. She also revealed that Joseph had been lying to her about his marital status, claiming he was already divorced when they met. She only found out the truth recently when she overheard a phone call between Joseph and his lawyer. I was stunned by this information. The timeline Natalie provided meant Joseph had been cheating on me for almost a year. All those times he was golfing with friends or at therapy sessions were likely spent with her. Natalie apologized profusely, saying she never would have gotten involved with Joseph if she knew he was married. She seemed genuinely remorseful and scared about the pregnancy. Natalie mentioned that when she told Joseph about the baby, he became angry and told her to take care of it because he wasn't ready for more kids. I felt a mix of emotions: anger at Joseph's betrayal, pity for Natalie, and concern for the unborn child. Despite my hurt, I couldn't help but feel sorry for this young woman who had been manipulated by my husband. After our meeting, I went home and told Eva everything. She was furious at Joseph but also felt bad for Natalie and the baby. We decided to keep this information to ourselves for now, unsure of how to proceed. Now, I'm torn about what to do next. Part of me wants to confront Joseph and expose his lies. Another part wants to just proceed with the divorce quietly and wash my hands of the whole mess. I'm also concerned about Natalie and the baby's well-being, given Joseph's reaction to the pregnancy. I've contacted my lawyer to discuss how this new information might affect our divorce proceedings. She advised me that Joseph's infidelity and the existence of a child could potentially impact any financial settlements, despite his initial claim of not wanting alimony. Eva suggested we offer support to Natalie, arguing that she's as much a victim of Joseph's lies as we are. While I appreciate her compassion, I'm not sure if getting involved is the best idea. As for the business, I've been throwing myself into work. The distraction has been helpful, and I'm starting to see some improvements. Several loyal clients have stuck with us through this rough patch, and we're slowly regaining our footing. I'm still processing everything and trying to figure out the best way forward. The revelation of Joseph's long-term affair and the pregnancy have added layers of complexity to an already difficult situation. I'm doing my best to stay strong for Eva and for myself, but some days are harder than others. I'd appreciate any advice on how to handle this situation. Should I confront Joseph about his lies? Should we offer support to Natalie? How do I protect myself and Eva emotionally and financially through all of this? Update 2. It's been a whirlwind few months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It's been invaluable during this challenging time. First, regarding Joseph and Natalie's situation, after much consideration, I decided to confront Joseph about his lies. I met him at a neutral location and laid out everything I knew. His reaction was a mix of shock, anger, and then, surprisingly, relief. He admitted to the affair and expressed regret for how he handled everything. However, the most shocking revelation came when Joseph confessed that he's not the father of Natalie's baby. Apparently, Natalie had been seeing multiple men, including Joseph, and wasn't sure who the father was. She had chosen to pin it on Joseph because he seemed the most financially stable. This news hit me hard. While I was angry at Joseph for his infidelity, I couldn't help but feel a twisted sense of justice that he had been deceived as well. Joseph seemed genuinely remorseful and asked for my forgiveness, but I made it clear that while I might forgive him someday, our marriage was over. As for Natalie, I decided to distance myself from her situation. It wasn't my responsibility to deal with her problems, and I needed to focus on healing myself and supporting Eva. On the business front, things have been looking up. The changes we implemented are starting to pay off, and we've even managed to expand into a new Josephette. Eva has been instrumental in this growth, showing a real knack for Josephetting and client relations. The divorce proceedings are moving forward smoothly. Given the circumstances, Joseph agreed to a fair settlement without any fuss. He's moving to another state for a fresh start, which I think is best for everyone involved. Eva has been my rock through all of this. She's shown incredible maturity and strength. We've grown even closer, and she's expressed interest in taking a more active role in the business after she finishes college. As for me, I've started to rediscover myself outside of my role as a wife and mother. I've joined a local business owners group and have been enjoying the camaraderie and support. I've also taken up painting as a hobby, something I always wanted to try but never found the time for before. I won't pretend it's all been easy. There are still days when the pain and anger resurface, but they're becoming less frequent. I'm learning to trust my instincts more and to value myself for who I am, not just for what I can provide to others. Looking back, I can see now that Joseph and I had grown apart long before his affair. We both made mistakes in our marriage, but I refuse to take blame for his choices. This experience has taught me a lot about resilience, self-worth, and the importance of honest communication in relationships. I'm cautiously optimistic about the future. While I'm not ready to think about dating yet, I'm open to the possibility of finding love again someday. For now, I'm focusing on my daughter, my business, and myself. Thank you all again for your support. Your words of encouragement have meant more than you know. Update 3. It's been half a year since my last update, and I wanted to share some final thoughts on this chapter of my life. The divorce was finalized 2 months ago. It was a bittersweet moment, the end of a 20-year marriage, but also the beginning of a new phase in my life. Joseph and I managed to keep things civil for Eva's sake, and we've established a cordial co-parenting relationship. Eva is thriving. She's in her final year of college and has already secured a job offer from a prestigious firm. She still helps out with the family business when she can, and her insights have been invaluable. I'm incredibly proud of the strong, compassionate woman she's become. As for the business, we've not only recovered from our setbacks but are now expanding. We've opened 2 new locations and our profits are at an all-time high. The challenges we faced forced me to innovate and take risks I might not have otherwise, and it's paid off tremendously. I've had some unexpected personal growth too. Remember that business owners group I joined? Well, I've become quite close with one of the members, David, 45M. We started as friends, bonding over our shared experiences as entrepreneurs and single parents. Over time, our relationship has developed into something more. I was hesitant at first, scared of being hurt again. But David has been patient and understanding. He respects my boundaries and supports my independence. It's refreshing to be with someone who values me for who I am, not what I can provide. Last month, I ran into Natalie at a local store. She was visibly pregnant and looked tired. We had an awkward but civil conversation. She apologized again for her role in the mess with Joseph and informed me that she had found the real father of her baby. I wished her well and walked away feeling a sense of closure. As for Joseph, I heard through Eva that he's settled in his new city and started a new job. He's been making efforts to rebuild his relationship with Eva, which I encourage. Despite everything, he's still her father. Looking back on this journey, I'm amazed at how much has changed in a year. The pain and betrayal I felt have faded, replaced by a sense of empowerment and hope. I've learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew, and that it's never too late to start a new chapter in life.